Steph Curry was sleeping deeply when the phone rang at 3:15 in the morning. On the other end of the line, his mother, Sonya, was crying desperately, barely able to speak between sobs. "Steph, I need to tell you something that will change everything," she whispered with a broken voice. What Sonya had discovered that dawn about Steph's past was so impactful that she couldn't wait until sunrise to reveal it. It's 3:15 in the morning in San Francisco. Steph Curry's mansion is wrapped in absolute silence, only the soft sound of the Pacific wind whispering through the open windows. Steph sleeps deeply after a hard-fought Warriors victory against the Lakers, still with his body aching and mind exhausted from the intense season. Suddenly, the shrill ring of the iPhone cuts through the silence like a blade. Steph stirs restlessly, trying to ignore the sound. But the phone keeps ringing. And ringing. And ringing. His eyes open slowly, still heavy with sleep. The illuminated screen projects a bluish light in the dark room. He fumbles on the nightstand, picking up the phone with trembling hands. When he sees the name on the screen, his heart stops for a second. Mom. Sonya Curry never, ever calls at this hour. Steph sits up in bed instantly, completely awake now. His mind races in all possible directions. Did Dad have a heart attack? Did Seth get hurt? Some accident? Mom? His voice comes out hoarse, loaded with concern. What happened? On the other end of the line, he hears something that makes him freeze. His mother sobbing. Not contained crying, but deep, desperate sobs, as if the world had collapsed on her. Steph. Sonya's voice can barely form the words between tears. Son, I need to tell you something. Mom, you're scaring me. Steph gets up from bed, pacing back and forth in the room. Is it Dad? Is it Seth? Did someone get hurt? No, it's nothing like that. Sonya tries to control herself, taking a deep breath. It's about you, Steph. It's about something you did, and that I just discovered. Steph frowns, completely lost. What are you talking about? I was organizing old papers in the attic tonight. Sonya's voice trembles. I found a box of correspondence that I had never properly opened. Steph, there was a letter. A letter from 15 years ago that never reached you. The player stops walking, feeling a knot form in his stomach. What letter, Mom? It was from a family called Santos. The mother's name is Maria Santos. Sonya stops to breathe, and Steph can hear that she's trying not to break down again. Steph, you saved this family's life when you were only 12 years old, and you never knew. Mom, I don't understand. Remember when you trained at that gym in Charlotte? The boy who always watched barefoot? Fragments of memories begin to form in Steph's mind. A young face, big, curious eyes, always sitting in the old gym bleachers. There was a boy, Steph whispers. Diego. Santos, Sonya confirms, her voice now firmer but still emotional. You gave him your shoes, Steph, your training shoes. And that gesture, that simple gesture, changed that entire family's life. Steph sits heavily on the edge of the bed, the memory becoming clearer. He vaguely remembers a shy boy, always watching the practices with admiration. Steph. Sonya's voice becomes more serious. That boy's mother wrote to thank you. She was dying of cancer and wanted you to know what you had done. But the letter never reached you. A heavy silence hangs on the line. Steph feels tears forming in his eyes without fully understanding why. Mom, his voice comes out in a whisper. Tell me everything. Sonya picks up the letter with trembling hands. Steph can hear the crumpled paper moving through the phone, a sound that somehow amplifies the tension of the moment. "Dear Steph," Sonya begins to read, her voice still choked. "My name is Maria Santos, and I am the mother of Diego Santos, a 10-year-old boy who frequents the gym where you train. I write this letter because my son doesn't stop talking about you, and I felt I needed you to know what you did for our family." Steph closes his eyes, trying to transport himself back to those days. The dusty gym, the smell of sweat and burnt rubber, the sound of balls bouncing on the worn wooden floor. "Diego has always been a special child," Sonya continues reading. "But at school, he suffered a lot of bullying because of our financial situation. I work as a cleaner in 3 different places to manage to pay rent and food. Real shoes were a luxury we simply couldn't afford." Sonya's voice trembles again. Steph can perfectly imagine the situation. He himself grew up seeing his parents struggle to provide opportunities for him and Seth. Diego went to school with flip-flops or completely destroyed shoes. The other children mocked him, called him beggar, and stinky. My boy came home crying almost every day. Felt like the worst mother in the world for not being able to give even a decent pair of shoes to my son. Steph feels his chest tighten. He remembers his own father working tirelessly to ensure that he and Seth never went through that. "Mom, continue," he whispers. Then, the miracle happened. On Thursday, March 15th, Diego came home with the biggest smile I had ever seen on his face. He was wearing a pair of Nike shoes, almost new, that fit him perfectly. When I asked where he had gotten them, he said, "The older boy from the team gave them to me. He said, 'These will help me run faster.'" Steph stops breathing for a moment. He remembers. He remembers perfectly that day. Diego was sitting in the bleachers, watching practice with dirty and injured feet. After practice, Steph simply took off his own shoes and handed them to the boy, without thinking twice. "Steph, you cannot imagine what happened next," Sonya continues, her voice now loaded with emotion. "Diego went to school the Marathiheit next day, like a completely different boy. He walked with his head held high, with confidence. The children stopped mocking him. He made friends. But more importantly, he fell in love with the sport." Steph feels tears streaming down his face. "My son started running every day with those shoes. He said he felt your energy, Steph. That when he wore those shoes, he felt invincible. The school coach noticed his natural talent and invited him to the track team. In 6 months, Diego was already winning regional competitions." Sonya's voice stops completely. Steph can hear that she's crying again. "Mom," he whispers. "Steph," she continues reading through tears, "as I write this letter, I am in the hospital. The doctors gave me 3 months to live. Cancer is winning, but I cannot leave without you knowing. You saved my son. You didn't just give shoes to him. You returned his dignity, his self-esteem, his future." Steph can no longer hold back the crying. He sobs openly, imagining a desperate mother writing those words in a hospital bed. Diego won a full scholarship for high school thanks to athletics. He will have the opportunities I could never give. And it all started with your kindness. You are our hero, Steph Curry, our angel. The letter ends with the family's address and a blurred photo of Diego graduating, proudly holding Steph's shoes. "Mom," Steph whispers, "what date is on the letter?" Sonya checks. November 18th, 2008. Steph quickly does the calculation. If Maria had 3 months to live when she wrote the letter, She probably died in early 2009. And he never knew. He never had the chance to respond, to thank, to know the impact he had. "Steph," Sonya whispers, "there's one more thing." In the envelope there was a note. Letter returned. Recipient not found. "She tried to send it to you, son. But you were already in high school, at Davidson. The letter never arrived." Steph is completely devastated. A mother died, without knowing if her message reached the boy who saved her son. Steph can't sleep anymore. It's 4:30 in the morning and he's in the kitchen, laptop open, determined to find any information about Diego Santos. His hands tremble as he types the name on various search sites. The first thing he finds leaves him speechless. Maria Santos's obituary, published on February 23, 2009. Maria Santos, 34 years old, lost the battle against cancer surrounded by family. She leaves behind her son, Diego Santos, 11 years old. Steph feels like he's been punched in the stomach. Maria was only 34 years old, the same age he is now, and Diego became an orphan at 11 years old, just 2 years after receiving those shoes. Determined, Steph uses his communication team's resources to do a deeper search. In 2 hours, he has complete information. Diego Santos, now 25 years old, graduated in physical education from the University of North Carolina, works as a volunteer coach at the Charlotte Community Center. Steph accesses Diego's social media, and what he sees makes him cry again. The profile picture shows Diego hugging a group of underprivileged children, all wearing sports uniforms. The description says, "Transforming lives through sports, one child at a time." As Steph navigates through the profile, he notices a pattern. Diego dedicates his entire life to helping children in vulnerable situations. Photos show him organizing free competitions, distributing sports equipment, giving tutoring classes. Then Steph sees something that stops his heart. A photo posted just 3 days ago. It's an image of the shoes, his old shoes, carefully preserved in a small display case in the gym where Diego works. The caption says, "These shoes changed my life 15 years ago. An angel gave them to me when I needed them most. My mother always said that no matter how little you have, you can always help someone. Today I use this story to inspire my students. Kindness is contagious." Steph enlarges the photo and can clearly see. They're really his shoes. Worn, but carefully preserved. Diego turned them into a symbol of hope. He continues investigating and discovers more. Diego never knew it was specifically Steph Curry who gave him the shoes. At the time, Steph was just an older boy who trained at the gym. Diego grew up without knowing that his anonymous hero became an NBA star. But then, Steph finds something concerning. In either the most recent posts, Diego mentions financial difficulties. The community center where he works is about to close due to lack of resources. Diego is desperately trying to raise funds to keep the project that serves more than 100 underprivileged children running. In a post from last week, Diego wrote, "I can't let these children down. They are the future. If I can keep this place running for one more year, maybe I can find a permanent solution. My mother always taught me that giving up is not an option." Steph feels a growing urgency. Diego is going through the same type of struggle his mother went through, trying to help others despite his own difficulties. He picks up the phone and calls his personal assistant. "Marcus, I need you to cancel my appointments for the next 2 days. I'm going to Charlotte, now." "Steph, it's 6 in the morning. Is everything okay?" Marcus asks, concerned. "Everything's fine," Steph responds, already planning the trip in his mind. "Actually, it's..." More than fine. I'm going to meet someone I should have met a long time ago. While packing a small suitcase, Steph doesn't stop looking at the photo of the shoes on his phone. Diego preserved them for 15 years, without knowing that the owner would become one of basketball's greatest players. But for Steph, Diego is the real hero, an orphan who transformed a gesture of kindness into a life mission to help others. Before leaving for the airport, Steph sends a message to Sonya. "Mom, I'm going to Charlotte. It's time to close this circle." Sonya's response arrives immediately. "I'm proud of you, son. Your mother Maria would be proud too." It's 2:30 in the afternoon when Steph arrives at the East Charlotte Community Center. The building is simple, with peeling paint and an outdoor court where several children are playing basketball with a basket without a net. Steph parks the rental car across the street, nervous like he'd never been before a decisive game. He wears a Warriors cap pulled down low and sunglasses, trying not to be recognized. Through the gym window, he can see Diego, now a 25-year-old man, tall and athletic, training a group of about 20 children. Steph immediately recognizes the same determined look that Diego had at 10 years old. He watches Diego correcting a little girl's posture, praising the effort of a boy who clearly struggles with coordination, hugging a child who just made their first basket. Just like his mother, Steffi thinks, remembering how Maria worked 3 jobs to take care of her son. For 15 minutes, Steph simply observes. Diego has infinite patience, a constant smile, and treats each child as if they were the most important thing in the world. At the back of the gym, Steph can see the small display case with his old shoes, like an altar dedicated to hope. When Diego gives the children a break to drink water, Steph takes a deep breath and enters the gym. "Excuse me," he says, removing his sunglasses. "Are you Diego Santos?" Diego turns, and for a moment his expression is one of confusion. Then his eyes gradually widen as he recognizes the face he constantly sees on TV. You are..." Diego stammers, completely in shock. "Steph Curry," Steph confirms with a nervous smile. "And I believe those shoes over there are mine." Diego looks at the display case, then back at Steph, then at the display case again. His legs seem to weaken. "No, it can't be," he whispers. "The boy. You were the boy. From the gym?" "Davidson Gymnasium, March 15th, 2008, Steph confirms. "You were sitting in the bleachers, barefoot. I had just finished training." Diego starts to tremble. Tears form in his eyes as reality sets in. You were my mother's angel," he whispers. "Actually," Steph says, his own voice choked, "your mother was my angel. I received her letter last night." "The letter?" Diego asks, confused. "What letter?" Steph explains about the lost letter, about how it reached him 15 years later, about how he spent the entire night looking for information about Diego. As he speaks, Diego becomes increasingly emotional. "She never told me she had written to you," Diego whispers. "She died 3 months later. I thought you would never know." The children begin to gather around them, whispering excitedly as they recognize Steph Curry. But Diego doesn't take his eyes off Steph. "Boys," Diego says to the children, his voice still trembling with emotion, "this is Steph Curry, and he is the man who changed my life when I was your age." A little girl raises her hand. "How did he change your life, Coach Diego?" Diego looks at Steph, who nods encouragingly. "When I was 10 years old, I was very poor. I didn't have shoes, I was bullied at school, and I felt invisible. Then this man," Diego points to Steph, "who was just a boy at the time, took off his own shoes and gave them to me. He didn't just give me shoes. He gave me dignity, confidence, and a reason to believe I could be anything. The children fall into absolute silence, absorbing the story. "And you know what else?" Diego continues, now smiling through tears. "That gesture inspired me to do the same for you. Everything I do here is because of what he taught me, that no matter how little you have, you can always help someone." Steph is completely moved. He sees in the children's faces the same admiration and hope he must have seen in Diego's face 15 years ago. "Diego," Steph says, pulling an envelope from his pocket. "Your mother was right. You are my heroes, and I can't let this place close." Diego opens the envelope with trembling hands. It's a check sufficient to keep the center running for 5 years, plus a letter promising sports equipment for all the children. Diego breaks down in tears, hugging Steph as if he were a long-lost brother. "Thank you," he whispers. "Thank you for saving my life twice." As Steph prepares to leave, Diego runs to the display case and takes the preserved shoes. "These belong to you," he says. Steph shakes his head. "No, Diego, these belong to you, and to all these children. Keep using the story. Keep spreading kindness." At the airport, Steph calls Sonya. "Mom," he says, voice full of peace, "I found Diego. And you know what I discovered?" "What, son?" "That those shoes never stopped running. They just changed feet. Now they're on the feet of 20 underprivileged children, and they'll keep running for generations." Sonya cries with happiness on the other side of the line. "Your mother, Maria, would be proud," she whispers. "I know, Mom, I know." And now Diego will be able to tell his children about the day kindness came home. The flight back to San Francisco feels lighter than any NBA victory. Steph understands now that real points aren't scored on the court, but in the hearts we touch along the way. Those worn shoes in Charlotte will continue running, carrying Maria Santos's message. Kindness is contagious, and a simple gesture can change the entire world.